policy was finally voted on by your AOC members in the middle of January. And we're just putting it into, play right now. So Keller Williams is committed to respecting consumer privacy by preventing our agents from making unsolicited telemarketing calls and texts to consumers who requested no contact. Following our policy is going to mitigate risk for you. The largest fear, I think, is that you might get tangled up in a class action lawsuit. And it is definitely going to mitigate risk for the brokerage, which is important to you, because if your brokerage goes through a financial hardship that changes your profit share, it changes the culture around here, we all want to be doing the right thing. The purpose of this policy is to ensure that all of you, our active agents, are complying with federal regulations. Specifically, and these acronyms are kind of tossed around and sometimes a little bit hard to remember, so I wanted to take a minute to go over it. Specifically, the Federal Trade Commission's telemarketing sales rule, about the Federal Communication Commission's rule under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which is the TCPA. It is most applicable to calls and, like I said, this new change, texts that are automated, going out by automated systems and artificial voices and pre-recorded marketing. So if you're not doing any of that, you're very likely thinking to yourself, well, I don't think this is actually going to apply to me. But I want to impress upon you that it absolutely still does, and it absolutely still can. So we want to make sure that you have good cognizance of the law. So what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen to you is you could get a fine. Now, I don't know the process for consumers to be able to complain. If anyone has experience with that or knows, feel free to pipe in and educate me. But I understand that if you are found in non-compliance, you can be fined $500. And if you get in a class action lawsuit, some of those in the past have been up to $40,000. If you've ever been at like family reunion or a big Keller Williams convention or watched something that Keller Williams has pre-recorded, there's usually at least one person, oftentimes it's Jason Abrams, and he says, don't forget to do it in a TCPA compliant manner. And that's because Keller Williams was tangled up in one of these class action lawsuits. So now they're doing what we're doing, and we're saying multiple times, please remember to do things in a TCPA compliant manner. You do have errors and omissions insurance. You pay for it monthly. If you need to use it, we as the brokers help you figure out how to put that, into play. But there are many situations where there is a deductible on your insurance. It renews and changes every year. Currently, our deductible is $5,000 that you would have to pay, as compared to if you had a code of ethics violation, it's $0 because they waive the deductible for things like that. But there's no guarantee that they would waive the deductible if you were found in violation of TCPA non-compliance. They also want to be sure that you know if this is something that happens regularly, Keller Williams Preferred Realty does have the right to cancel our independent contractor agreement with you and essentially say they'd like you to move your brokerage to somewhere else. So as you follow along on the policy, I want to make sure and call your attention to the first page. Hang on a second. I want to call your attention to the first paragraph on the second page, which says continued. So we're encouraging you to either attend the training, which you guys are overachievers, you're here, listening to the training, which is going to be recorded on Zoom. And they are suggesting that they are going to be offering training classes once a year. So I think they're going to want you to come to this regularly so that you have regular knowledge of it. We put two policies together when we decided to implement this policy, and we took a former policy that was put into effect, I think, in 2013, related to what you'll read close to the bottom, and it talks about as a realtor, you should take you should make a courtesy call to the other agent. So if your calling, for example, expires, they want you to check all the processes for do not call, but then they also want you to check the MLS listing and see if it was previously listed by a KWPR agent. If it was, they want you to simply give them a courtesy call so that we're not stealing listings from one another, okay? So be sure to pay attention to that. Then we're going to go on down now to the specific guidelines that we're going to enforce about how to best stay within the realm of the TCPA compliance. So we want you to know the law. We want you to generally understand what the law is. And it is a federal law that is designed to limit unsolicited marketing calls, especially those through automated systems. So the automated calls where someone hangs up if you don't pick up in time, or the automated text that we get so much of. The National Do Not Call Registry is a website, and I've called them many times, which is fascinating. It seems to be run by like one dude, and he seems to be in maybe some sort of southern state based on his voice and his cadence. And we want you to utilize that. We originally thought we could have one access to the Do Not Call Registry and give all of you guys login credentials to it. As it turns out, you all have to have one individually on your own. You have to like do the dual authentication where it comes to your cell phone, and you know have to get re-logged in quite regularly. So then you must avoid calling numbers that are on that registry, and we also want you to avoid calling the numbers that are on our internal Do Not Call list, and I'll be giving you more information about this. You must always provide the recipient a clear and easy method to opt out of future contact, and there's also going to be some components here about opting in, and I'll talk more about that. But if you're using Command, you're in luck because we cover all of those bases. If you've chosen to use a CRM that's a little bit different, they likely have those as well, but no guarantee, and it is your obligation to look through it and make sure they have it. So an example would be this. This is an email that came out from Jen Schlake, and this was an invitation to an event that she was doing. We're on her distribution list, and because it came through Command, you can see down here that this is an example of how a person can click to unsubscribe. Also, Command has really nice built-in process for texting. So I don't know how many of you take advantage of Twilio, but I want to talk you through what it looks like right here if you do it. So I decided I was going to send Jason, who's in my database, I was going to send Jason Arvidsson a text message. So I went into Command, and there's steps that you can take to click down here and say that you wanted to send a text to either this contact or this group. And then what I wanted to say is I wanted to say, I'd like to help you buy $1 million home in Lake Minnetonka this weekend. Call me on WhatsApp. And then I said, my name is Melissa Johnson with Keller Williams Preferred Realty, because you know I'm really on you about making sure you disclose that. But because it came from Twilio, it didn't come from my personal cell phone number. It came from this different number, which is a little annoying. But what it does automatically is it says, reply stop to this if you wish to unsubscribe. So just like the emails, the texts also have a way to unsubscribe. So he did. He responded back and he said stop. And then we responded automatically to him that says you have been successfully unsubscribed. What I saw then on my end is I got a red alert up in the little bell, and the alert said, hey, you've received a Twilio message from Jason Arvidsson, and he requested that he wanted to stop being on your list. It also, in his contact here then, logged in on his timeline. It logged in that he wanted to be removed from it. And then you'll want to go through and verify that you pulled them out of all the groups that you may be automatically sent to. If you have technical questions, oopsies. If you have technical questions about how to make sure your Command or your current CRM is doing that right, I recommend you talk to Jason. Yeah.
Going back to the email that
Yeah.
Jen sent, and unsubscribing from there just unsubscribes you from email.
Email. And the TCPA is not about emails.
Right.
It's only about text and calls. But I just wanted to make sure that you understood how robust and how seriously the tech directors at Keller Williams are taking this, and they're making sure to respect consumer privacy by giving them the options. So there are some exemptions. Maybe I went a little too far forward. Yes, I went way too far forward. I'm not sure what happened here. It's like, oh, wait, what's going on? I'm going all the way to the end. How do I go back?
Other, yeah. No. Go the other way.
Maybe I'm gonna need to.
You just have the numbers at the bottom with the little arrows. But this works too.
Here we go. This is what I'll use. Okay, here we go. All right, so now that those were opt-out procedures. Now let's talk about opt-in procedures. So if you have like a QR code where you put it out on Facebook and you've said, you know, do you want to enter into this contest, or do you want to sign up to receive updates from me on my email? You should make sure and have some sort of checkbox or something that says, I am giving you written consent to communicate with me. Then you're gonna automatically, or you either are going to log that, or command is going to automatically log that into the client timeline. And then you are going to make sure that you have received written consent on this. Now, there are some consumers that we already have an established business relationship with who may be exempt from these specific rules, and I'm gonna go over that with you here in a little bit. But here's an example on Kelly Arvidson's website of how she receives prior written consent from any online web leads that might come to her website. And again, this is a command generated, Keller Williams generated website. And there was, you know, a link, or you can see the QR code on there that says, yes, I want you to reach out to me. And then notice down here, it says, by clicking this checkbox, you accept our terms of use and acknowledge that your promotional data will be handled in accordance with our privacy policy, and that you consent to your personal data being shared with Keller Williams, its agent, or the entire market center. So let's talk about those exemptions. Like, do you have to get this opt-in from everyone? And no, you don't, thankfully. But you might be surprised by the deadlines in which they run out of their exemption. So an entity that a consumer has an established client relationship with may call for up to 18 months after the consumer's last purchase, as they describe it at the federal government, but for us that would be closing, unless the consumer asks that the company does not call again. In that case, the company must honor the request, and if they call a past client who doesn't want to be called, it could be subject to a fine of up to $53,000. So yeah, we definitely don't want that, right? So this is specifically talking about, you know, let's just say my mom is I help my mom buy her condo. This is my real estate client, and we're now within the 18 months after she bought her condo. I want to invite her to the Santa event. I want to encourage her to send me a referral. I want her to, you know, come to the Valentine's event, the pie event and whatnot. Even if she is on the do not call list, because she's my client, past client, I can call her for up to 18 months, so this is an exemption. Unless she has specifically said to you, either, you know, verbally or by opting out, because she's sick of getting the text messages and she lives out of state and she doesn't want to come to the pie event or whatever. So that is an exemption. Also, if, like through Kelly's website, which I showed you the example of, if someone says, like, hey, I'm in the market for real estate, I want to hear from you. You have the ability to call them, even if they're on the do not call list, for up to 3 months. If they're not on the do not call list, you can call them for longer. But if they happen to be on the do not call list, it's for 3 months. A consumer whose number is not on the National Do Not Call Registry, as we talked about with my mom, can still prohibit you, and they can ask to be put on the KWPR internal do not call list. So we didn't have an internal do not call list before this, and we do now. And so I will talk you through this and show you a little bit more about it. But you may be asking yourself, holy smokes, this makes me feel like I'm gonna be handcuffed. Like, who do I call, and how much risk am I willing to take? And that's where I say, give me grace, because this is the first time I've researched this and done the class. I'm not an avid mass texter and caller, but what I have learned by being a broker here for the last 5 years is everything is gray. Very, very, very few things are black and white. So you may want to know, is it a yes or is it a no? And you may not ever really get an answer. What happens in real estate when there's a dispute, and what would happen in this case if there were a dispute, is it would have to go through like a process. It would have to go through like a judicial process in order for you to learn that you automatically receive that fine. And you may not even automatically receive the fine if you can go back in your database and prove that you did to the best of your ability. I attended this class. I logged onto this site to learn more as a resource. This is the record that I have of everyone in my database. But going to the Federal Trade Commission website is going to be, in my opinion, your best bet at getting good information. Okay, so this doesn't just apply to you, this applies to you, and it also applies to any third-party vendor that you've hired to do this kind of work for you. So keep in mind that you do need to, ask your, service providers, your virtual assistants, whatever, to honor this as well. So here's what we recommend you do. We recommend that you document the heck out of it. So you are required to maintain an individual system for tracking your own consent and then resolving any complaints that you receive. If a complaint is received, we're asking that you take prompt action to remove that individual from all future marketing lists while noting the date and the time of your CRM. You'll see in the updated policy here, it was advised to Jason and Colin, who are investors in the firm, that you actually have to do that within a certain number of hours. So I think it says like within 24 hours and within 48 hours. The complainant's name must also be listed on the KWPR internal list on the dashboard, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then if you want to check our do not call list, we're not making it public, that would be certainly an infringement of this consumer privacy that we're trying to advocate for now. But you can work with Megan. She is going to be the holder of the list. I can assure you it's very short right now, so you're very equipped to check your call list. If you're doing some circle prospecting or you're wanting to call expireds or something, it'll be very quick for her to share with you if you have any double ups on the list. It is required that consumer complaints be recorded by us as a brokerage for 5 years, and therefore we encourage you that you do the same thing. So where do we find this internal do not call list? So as Jason would be so happy to hear you all say, it is on the KWPR dashboard. Good job, good job, good job. Down on the very, very, very bottom right-hand corner, there is a hyperlink that takes you to a Google form. The Google form looks like this. It's very simple. You put in your name. I'm sorry, I take that back. You put in the name of the person who wishes to be on our internal do not call list. You put their phone number. You also then put your name as the agent. You put the date that they notified you, and we're asking that be, within 24, 48 hours. And are you indeed saying that they wish to opt out? And you check the box there and you say, yes, they are. So you've checked the internal do not call list. Now it is time to actually check the do not call list. So you go to donotcall.gov and you'll want to create for yourself an account, which is called a seller telemarketer site. So if a consumer or you as a consumer want to be put on the do not call list, you can use this. And then you go one step further to telemarketing at donotcall.gov so that you can register and then you can go ahead and check that list. Now Tom, which is, I'm not surprised, he is Johnny on the spot, has already done the work. He's already created his profile and he's learned several things, right? Can you share with me and all of us what you've learned?
All right, well, one, how many of us have our cell phone numbers advertised as our business numbers? You can't be on the do not call list. So as an entity, an advertised number, you're not subject to that.
Did you try it? Is that how you learned?
No,
Okay.
no, I just read it.
Good, good.
So you can download for free up to 5 area codes, which is what I did at 612-952-763, 503, 507.
Good.
And so there's no charge for that. The files, they're downloaded in a text file, so there'll be like 50,000 numbers.
Wow.
In each file. And then once I got this, I'm going, this is really going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, who in my database is on it, who's not on it. So what I did was I downloaded all of my contacts from Command into a spreadsheet. Sorted them by phone number, and then split them up into different tabs on a spreadsheet with the DNC numbers, and created a formula that would tell me instantly if they were on or not on the DNC by highlighting it either in red saying that they're on the do not call list in green,
Go.
go for it.
Good. How many did you find in that?
A lot, majority.
Wow.
You know, quite a few of them I've got established relationships with. I'm still gonna call my kids even though they're on it.
That's an established relationship.
I think so.
An exemption.
But it just simplified everything. So if, you know, if I'm wondering if a certain person in my database is on the DNC or not, I just go over to this spreadsheet, find their name and look to see if they're red or green.
Great job. Great job.
So,
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would be more than happy to help anybody else set this up.
It takes a long time.
It takes some
We're not
time,
free.
so I would charge $25 to set this up for you.
So you're saying you like spreadsheets?
And how often do you think you're gonna have to download those numbers?
I would probably, see, I just downloaded mine in January.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably do it on a quarterly basis,
Good.
just to update, and refresh those
Yeah,
numbers.
smart. Smart. Okay. Is anyone else using the do not call list? Does anyone else have experience with this?
You were gonna say something?
Oh, that was my question.
So this was driving me bonkers for a long time. So I asked, what can we do? I know this was out here, but seemed cumbersome. I didn't actually try it, but, and I even asked probably her camps or something like, what are they doing? Some other people, some have it like built into like a CRM. We used to have Remind, which was amazing. And then that got swooped after the lawsuits because of the money, I'm sure, and maybe to the degree of who was using it and what they were paying for it. Which that would be awesome, but that's like $1,000 a month. So that's not in the budget. So it's kind of a little bit of a love hate. I thought I signed up for something for $10 and it ended up being $60, but Mojo dialing.
Yes.
So I was just trying to get basically this, plug in a number, tell me it's do not call, not happening. So I might have to sit through like a tutorial or something. But as of right now, the way that it works, I can plug in an address and it'll give me the numbers of that address. And then it'll tell me if it's red, yellow, or green.
Okay.
And then it'll also show me emails. Can I text? Maybe I can text, but I can't call. And so I think it's worth it for $60 a month because you can circle prospect with it. And it's probably the cheapest I could find. The only issue is I just wish they had a number I could plug in there. They might, but I don't think I've discovered it yet. But a lot of times I have to plug in the address and then it'll tell me if the number's good or bad.
I can set that up for you in the spreadsheet.
Nice
Right.
work.
Yeah.
Nice
So-
work. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So hand over your credit card.
Yeah.
So it's 60.
Yeah.
Okay, so it does say in the federal law that you do have to review your phone numbers against the list every 31 days. I agree with you, Tom. I think that is very impractical. So I'm understanding of doing it quarterly. But it does say by federal law, you need to scrub your list against the do not call list every 31 days. You also have to remember that there are some time restrictions. So you should be honoring these time restrictions. Keep in mind, it's at the local time of the recipient. You're only allowed to call between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. So for those of you who are up and at 'em at 6 a.m., please don't start your calls at 7, especially if you're calling someone on the West Coast. When a consumer requests to be removed, you have to do it immediately. And as we've talked about, they have to be put on the internal do not call list. That is a little bit redundant, but just a summary. And here is a recap. So this policy was brought forth by a large team here and put in place and discussed at ALC. It applies to all these acronyms, the FTC, the FCC, and is governed then by the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Errors and omissions may cover it, but keep in mind you may have a deductible. We are going to have every single one of you sign off on the policy. It's going to be a big undertaking this spring, but everyone is going to sign in. We're going to keep it on record here. There's some things that you shouldn't do. Do not call them between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Do not ignore if you get an alert in your bell that says someone has requested stop. Don't be working so fast that you forget to look at that. Do not assume that not being on the do not call registry means they can't still opt out of your and our entity's calls. And do not fail to follow these federal rules or your violations can be really, really expensive. What you should do, so your homework going out of this, is you should register yourself on that do not call list as a telemarketer. You should attempt to, someone telemarketing you right now.
Yeah.
Should we have a little role play? You should check that do not call list frequently. You should only call in the local time of the recipient. You may call any of your past clients for up to 18 months, even if you find them on the do not call list, or you shouldn't if they've told you personally. If a consumer inquires with you through your online web lead or through Facebook or something, you can contact them for 3 months, even if they're on the do not call list. You should document all consent, complaints, and demands. You should use our internal do not call list. You know, that's on the dashboard. You should maintain your own records for up to 5 years. And how do I move this? Oh, and you should check your resources. So these are really good resources. If you, when you're in Command next, I have something called Command MC, and that's because I'm on leadership. But you all have Command and you also have Connect. You should go on Connect and you should just search do not call. You'll find that Keller Williams has put together a lot of good resources for you, even from the FTC. Most of them are just directly from KWRI. You should also be sure to familiarize yourself with this website. So jot down ftc.gov. And thank you for taking the time to be here today. I know it was not the